Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. With the holiday weekend kicking off, our mission today is pretty straightforward. Cut through the noise and get you completely up to speed on Tropical Storm Chantal. We've been looking at the very latest insights, from recent YouTube weather updates, specifically from 11 Alive. We've tried to pull out the most crucial bits. You might think a slow-moving storm isn't a big deal, but we're going to look into some surprising effects and why you still need to pay attention. You'll walk away informed, I promise.
Absolutely. And what's really valuable about these updates is they let us see beyond just the track, right? They help model the bigger atmospheric picture, revealing impacts you might not expect right away.
Okay, so let's set the scene then. What exactly is Tropical Storm Chantal doing right now? Are we talking hurricane strength here?
No, definitely some good news on that front. It is still a tropical storm, and importantly, it's not forecast to become a hurricane. Winds are hovering around 45 miles per hour. Yeah, and just for context, a Category 1 hurricane starts at 74 miles per hour. So this tells us the main worry is really heavy rain and coastal stuff, not widespread destructive winds. Right now, it's sitting off the coast of the Carolinas, kind of edging closer.
Right, and what's really caught my eye is its movement. It's incredibly slow, isn't it? Like 7 to 8 miles per hour north. That's barely moving for a storm system.
It really is. It's practically crawling.
Does that slow speed make it, less of a problem, or does it create a different kind of headache?
That's a great question, and it's a bit counterintuitive. A slow mover like this might seem less threatening initially, but it can actually mean prolonged rainfall over the same areas. That really ramps up the flash flood risk, even if the hourly rain rate isn't, off the charts.
Prolonged exposure.
Exactly. However, the good news here, according to the sources, is that the heaviest rain bands are currently staying offshore, out over the ocean. Yeah, so that helps lessen the immediate severe land impact, even with its slow pace. That's slowness. It's mostly down to weak steering currents, kind of stuck near a high-pressure system.
Okay, that makes sense. So given that slow speed, what's the latest thinking on landfall? When and where? And what should people right there expect?
Well, the timing has shifted a bit, precisely because it's moving so slowly. Originally, some thought maybe around 2 a.m. Sunday morning for landfall.
Right.
But yeah, moving at just 8 miles per hour. Other updates suggested it could be closer to 8 a.m. Though it's worth noting the National Hurricane Center's latest advisory did still point towards that 2 a.m. Sunday morning timeframe.
Okay, so some uncertainty there.
A little bit, yeah. But regardless of the exact hour, the expectation is for wind gusts around 50 miles per hour right at landfall. So it'll definitely still be a tropical storm when it hits the coast.
And then what? What happens after it makes landfall? Does it just fall apart, or could it linger? Some of these systems hang around.
That's the crucial next phase. And there's more encouraging news there, too. Once it moves inland, it's expected to transition pretty quickly into a low-pressure system.
Okay.
And that's key because it loses its tropical characteristics, that warm core. It becomes more disorganized, still rainy, but the wind threat diminishes significantly. The really good news is by Monday, say 10 p.m., the Carolinas should be pretty much clear. The sources say they won't have anything to worry about at all from Chantal by then. It should move off.
That is definitely welcome news for them. All right, let's broaden the view. Primary impact zones, North and South Carolina, obviously, but what about down the coast, Florida? Especially thinking about that phrase the sources used, all that water is connected. Yeah. What are the biggest worries?
For the Carolinas, the number one concern is flash flooding. That risk lasts from tonight right through Monday. You've got tropical storm watches and warnings up along the coast. And besides those 50-mile-per-hour gusts and the heavy rain, there's also a chance for isolated tornadoes spinning up from those outer bands.
Even if the main rain is offshore?
Even then, yes. It's something to watch. So if you know anyone traveling through the Carolinas, they absolutely need to keep checking local forecasts.
Definitely. And for Northeast Florida, that all that water is connected idea, it really highlights how storms have far-reaching effects, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's a simple way of saying that the energy from the storm's winds travels outward across the ocean as swells. So even hundreds of miles away, you get dangerous surf and, crucially, life-threatening rip currents. So for the Northeast Florida beaches, that's the main thing, dangerous rip currents and high surf, super important for anyone hitting the beach this holiday weekend. Listen to the lifeguards, Pay attention to the warning flags. It really drives home that a storm heading for, say, Myrtle Beach can still create hazards down in Jacksonville Beach because, yeah, the ocean connects it all.
Okay, good reminder. Let's shift focus inland a bit. How about Georgia? What should folks listening in Metro Atlanta expect? Are we going to feel this at all?
Mostly no. For North Georgia and Metro Atlanta, the good news is we're expected to miss pretty much all the major effects. Very little moisture coming in from the Atlantic for us. There's maybe a tiny, tiny chance of a sprinkle, but mostly dry, and even that small chance goes down for Sunday.
So just heat and humidity.
Pretty much. Good weather for pools, I guess. We will see some increasing cloud cover through Sunday, maybe holding a little moisture aloft, but temperatures still hot. Around 86 today, Friday, climbing to maybe 93, 94 on Sunday, and then Monday looks like a scorcher, potentially 97 degrees with the humidity really kicking back in.
Wow. Okay.
And no airport delays reported related to the system, by the way.
Good to know. What about other parts of the state, southeast Georgia, North Florida?
Yeah, they have seen some rain down there. Areas like Savannah, Brunswick, St. Mary's got some showers. And that rain has been moving southwest towards Lake Valdosta and Fargo, mainly sliding south into North Florida. But nothing major expected up here in the metro or the mountains.
Okay. And looking even further out, beyond Chantal, what's the pattern looking like next week?
Well, we seem to be heading into what the forecasts call a wet pattern, starting around Tuesday next week. That means increasing chances for your typical afternoon and evening pop-up showers and thunderstorms. There's potential for some heavier rainfall down in South Georgia by, say, Wednesday night.
Right.
But the good news, the really good news, is that the models currently are not showing this merging with any other big weather systems.
Yeah.
So no complex interactions expected right now, just more typical summer rain chances.
That's a relief. You know, something that often gets missed and, touched on this is why it's so important to keep tracking these things. Even after they make landfall, people tend to just tune out.
That is such a critical point. A huge safety message, really. So many people hear landfall and think, okay, threat's over.
Yeah.
But you absolutely have to keep tracking the remnants.
Why is that?
Because even a weakened, disorganized system can still carry enormous amounts of moisture. We saw a really stark example with Tropical Storm Barry over in Texas a while back. Near San Antonio and Austin, its remnants just kind of stalled out, paused, and then dumped incredible amounts of rain, causing devastating floods long after it stopped being a named storm.
Wow, I remember that.
Yeah. So while we don't expect Chantal to do something that severe after landfall, the principle holds true. Always track the remnants. It just reinforces that general advice. Pay attention to forecasts, listen to local officials, heed those lifeguard warnings and flags.
Right. Well, hopefully this deep dive has given you, the listener, a really clear, concise picture of Tropical Storm Chantal, its path, its effects. You should feel equipped with what you need to know for the holiday weekend and beyond.
Absolutely. And maybe something to think about is this. Given how quickly forecasts can change and how these systems, even seemingly minor ones, can have these surprising, far-reaching impacts, from rip currents hundreds of miles away to influencing temperatures days later, what might be the next unexpected ripple effect we need to be ready for when we think about weather? How interconnected is it all, really?